Let's bring on Chuck Robbins, CEO of CISCO. And Karen Cho from CNBC has delighted us by coming down from London, so she'll be doing the questions. So thanks, have a great time, guys.
Thank you so much. We were so busy chatting backstage, we almost missed our cue, so we've got lots to talk about. First up, let's talk about your message here at Viva Technology. What does CISCO want to convey?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me here, and it's great to see all of you here at VivaTech. You know, we have been incredibly committed here in France for a long time. In fact, almost 3 years ago, we made our first commitments under a digital acceleration strategy that included elements of education, cybersecurity work with our friends at Thales, educating students around technology needs for the jobs of the future, focusing on smart cities, and perhaps most important to this group is a big focus on incubators, startups, and a $200 million venture capital investment. So we're just continuing more of the same.
I think you're one of the only tech executives not to take the invitation to turn up at the Elysee Palace this week. It was a lovely lunch. It was a photo opportunity in the garden. You missed out on that. But I think you got the message anyway that France is open for business when it comes to technology. What do you make of the startup culture that Macron is trying to provide here in France?
You know, it's been amazing to watch. And I am sorry I missed that lunch yesterday. I had to be in New York. But it's fascinating to have seen how the economy here in France and the spirit of entrepreneurship and technology over even the last 5 years, it's just been phenomenal. And in fact, it may be the second, most relevant place right now relative to technology startups. It has just exploded here, and it's been incredible to see with Station F and a lot of the work that's going on. And the good news is our team saw it many years ago, and we got engaged very early. So it's great.
As I've been reporting on CNBC for the last couple of days, we go to a lot of technology conferences, but you don't get the sort of turnout that we've seen this week from Silicon Valley. So many tech executives here from the likes of Microsoft, IBM, Facebook, Uber. The message, tech for good, I think a lot of executives from the States want to be seen under that banner. Tell us about what you've been doing and why it's so pressing for you now to talk about tech for good in this moment in time.
Yeah, it's really important for technology companies and frankly all businesses right now, I believe, on a global basis, to not only focus on your business model, your profitability, and the key metrics that you're trying to drive as a business, but I do think it's also an incredible responsibility that we all have to actually address some of the issues that are occurring in the world. And for years, many of us have been working on issues that, candidly, we could connect back to our business. So we were very willing to go around the world and invest in education because what does that do? It creates more people that understand my technology, which is good for both of us. So it's still a good thing. But increasingly, for us, as an example, we're incredibly active in the case of disasters. So we're first on the ground in Puerto Rico for hurricane relief. We've recently committed $50 million to homelessness in Silicon Valley because that's an emerging problem in the wealthiest county in the state of California. So I think what you're seeing now is you're seeing companies not only continue to do the things they've done in the past, but broaden the reach of those initiatives. And I think all of us are beginning to talk about it more because, frankly, our customers, our partners, our investors, and our employees want to really understand what we're doing.
You guys are in the business of security, and it's a big week for Europe. Data protection rules come into force Friday. What do you make of the rules, and are you ready?
Well, first of all, I think it's exemplary, and everybody can debate details, but I think that it's been a very positive process, and for us, we've been ready. We've been helping our partners and our suppliers prepare for this. So, I applaud what's gone on here, and we're happy that we're prepared for tomorrow.
So you deal with a lot of data, but the problem is, if you use that data inappropriately, there are big fines that come your way now. How do you make sure you're not running the risk of being tangled up in those fines, and also your clients don't get stuck with huge fines here in Europe?
Well, we established we have a security and trust office, and then we established a chief privacy officer for this very issue. And they spend, like many of my peers, we spend a lot of time making sure, this is not the only compliance issue we have on a global basis. So we're pretty good at understanding how to manage our way through these things.
Do you think Europe's gone too far in regulation? Is it time to pull back? Is it stifling innovation?
No, I think right now what's happening is the technology arena is moving so quickly, and frankly, we need the regulatory environment to continue to move, and it's going to need to move at the pace that technology is moving. And it's difficult for all of us in this room to keep up with the changes that are occurring in technology at the pace that they are occurring. And so it's even more difficult for the regulators to understand all the different elements and then move at the same pace. But that's really what I think is going to be required, which is going to require all of us in the tech industry to probably spend more time educating and making sure that the regulators understand what's going on.
Chuck, let's talk about money. I know a lot of startups always target Google to try and get them to buy their business, but you're a deal maker. You've done a ton of deals since you took over from John Chambers back in 2015, about 24 acquisitions. And I'll just run the audience through some of those in case they're not close to it. Broadsoft in October to enhance cloud offering. App Dynamics, this is a bug fixer, software company that monitors and fixes problems with websites before customers leave those sites. Then there's a SpringPath in August, a couple of other smaller deals. What exactly is the strategy, and what do people in this room need to do if they want you to buy their company?
Well, we have a multi-pillar strategy for how we bring new innovation to our portfolio. We spend close to $6 billion a year in research and development on our own. And I'm pleased to say that we launched a new platform last summer that, believe it or not, is the fastest ramping product in the history of the company. And we have a pretty storied history. But we also use our M&A capability to add greater, capabilities to our existing portfolio, to move us into adjacent areas that are enhanced by our portfolio, to create more value for our customers, to get us into fundamentally new markets that our customers would like to see us get in. And the third element that we really focus on are these deep strategic partnerships, like what you see us having done with Apple and Google, et cetera.
So how will you describe the company in a couple of years? Because I think what's interesting is that even the analysts who follow your company, who report on the stock, don't understand it. So they often get their recommendations wrong. So you see fairly huge gyrations in the stock, very different from some of the analysts' recommendations. So how would you say to the audience, or how would you describe the company and what it will become in the next couple of years?
Yeah, I think if we look at what's happening in our customer base today, every customer is in the next 3 to 5 years consuming services from multiple cloud providers, services from multiple SaaS providers. They're trying to digest this explosion of IoT connections at the edge of the network. Their private data centers are not getting smaller. They're actually increasing their spend. They're still dealing with mobility and suppliers and customers. And when you think about that environment, the network actually is the only common denominator across that architecture. So what we are now doing is adding more and more capabilities to the network layer. So we're adding analytics and policy, security deeply embedded into the network, and helping our customers actually navigate this new world that they're going to have to operate in with a real focus on security.
Let's get into AI, artificial intelligence, because Emmanuel Macron is trying to make Paris an AI hub. What is AI doing in your business at the moment? What are the capabilities of the future as you roll out more AI on the platform?
Yeah, one of the stats we were talking about backstage is that CISCO is actually the largest enterprise security player in the world, and we're currently processing 20 billion threats that we block on a daily basis. So in order to do that, by definition, there's huge state machines that we run in the cloud that are doing machine learning, and we're applying AI algorithms to that. And the way we think about it is that AI and ML, they aren't businesses for us. We're implementing them underneath our solutions to make our solutions more effective for our customers. So that's how we're doing it. We have AI initiatives going across our company today. But I joke with our guys that a lot of what we're calling AI in the world today is really it's elaborate, really complex algorithms that we're running against huge big data sets. And but there's so we have some AI efforts going on, but we're also doing a massive amount of just algorithmic processing of data.
How integral is AI to targeting threats? I mean, in the press in the past 24 hours, a big cybersecurity threat that you uncovered, 500,000 home office routers infiltrated. How do you manage to uncover that sort of information without artificial intelligence?
Well, we have several hundred threat researchers in a group called Talos. So we have a big group of really smart people, first of all. But you are going to have to apply artificial intelligence. We recently launched a technology where we can determine when there's malware inside encrypted traffic without decrypting it. And to do that, it takes an awful lot of processing of different parameters and actually applying AI techniques to come up with the most likely sort of characteristics that would lead you to believe there's malware inside packets. So it's that kind of thing, and we're building more and more of those capabilities and that automation into our portfolio, because that's the only way we're going to solve the security issue. Is you're going to have to do it real time as traffic is flowing across these networks. There's no other way.
This sounds like a very similar conversation to the one Mark Zuckerberg might be having about how he deploys artificial intelligence across the site. Would you make or draw a distinction between how a grown-up technology company like yours deals with AI versus a younger company?
Well, I think that all the technology companies are looking at AI relative to how it helps them achieve their mission more effectively. So I don't think that that we look at it differently. I think the fundamental difference in the challenge that different companies face are around the business model and how you actually, the things that you're doing. So when you monetize the data, then that has a different set of challenges than when we move the data. So our job is to move the data. I mean, I think that's the subtle difference here.
Are you more responsible, though, using AI than, say, Mark Zuckerberg? I think this big fight that erupted between Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg over whether AI would kill the world or kill the human race, people sort of leant into both sides. And after the privacy scandal and how Facebook has been shown to use profiles and allow developers access to the site, many might be taking a step back now, saying, well, can we trust Mark Zuckerberg on artificial intelligence? Do you think people are right to question whether AI should be in the hands of some of these younger startup companies from Silicon Valley?
Well, I think that every technology that you build, you have to step back and understand what's the responsibility that we have. I mean, our technology, there are lots of different things I'm sure that we could do that would be viewed irresponsible, and we have to choose not to do so. And I'm not implying anyone else is being irresponsible. I'm just suggesting that that's just a natural possibility that can occur. What I think is that the reality is the technology continues to evolve so quickly, and we're going to have to figure some of this stuff out as we go. If you go back and look at, if you go back into the early 20th century when television first came out, I can guarantee you my grandparents thought it was the most evil thing that ever occurred, right? It's just evil, it's terrible. You're not going outside and playing anymore. It's turning your brains to mush. So I think all of these, to some level, we've had to just sort of find the balance on, and I think we will.
I want to talk about what's happening in the United States to an extent, because the political playing field keeps changing, and I want to reference ZTE specifically. This was a company, a Chinese telecom company, that effectively got an olive branch from the president recently after almost being shut out of the American market for 7 years. This would have been hugely advantageous for you at home in the United States and for some of the clients that you work with who want to build out 5G, perhaps not so helpful for you operating in China, where you might have faced somewhat of a backlash if that had happened. How would you describe the ZTE story and what it has meant for you?
Well, we don't really compete with ZTE, so for us it's not that big of an issue directly. I think, and I have not obviously been involved. No one's called to ask me about my opinion on this. There was actually a good interview today with Wilbur Ross, who actually laid out exactly what transpired. It was on CNBC earlier today. And I think that, there were multiple courses of action that he laid out that they could have taken, and they chose the most extreme recourse. And now he simply said that the president is looking at different options relative to, in the context of this broader negotiation, would we want to step back to a lower level of punishment, so to speak. And so, my knowledge of this is equivalent to yours based on what we see, but I think that's what's going on.
There's a lot going on. Originally, we were looking at a trade war, and we can use the term trade war after Stephen Mnuchin used it the other day, and that seems to be avoided. The meeting with North Korea and the United States not going ahead, so a change in geopolitics. Middle East tensions have erupted. I mean, there's a lot for business to focus on. I think when you compare to the French president here, a lot of businesses would say, our president is winning for us. He's doing a lot to inspire entrepreneurs and provide a lot of clear, stable messages. How would you describe what Trump is doing for your business at home?
Well, I think the one thing that's been clear over the last several years is that we live in a world that's very dynamic, and I joke with our employees that I have my day planned, and then I wake up and look at my phone to see what kind of changes are going to occur based on what's going on any given day. I think, in the U.S., from a business perspective, we've had some positive, from tax reform and our ability to repatriate cash. We have, I think that the president here is doing an amazing job of pushing, the reforms that are needed, and obviously fueling this kind of community, which is incredibly helpful for the economy of France. And I think that as we move forward, as relative to this to trade dynamic that's going on, I've been very clear. I think that China knows that getting into a trade war is not in their best interest. The U.S. knows that getting into a trade war is not in our best interest. And the global economy doesn't benefit from a trade war. And I think at the end of the day, there'll be negotiation, there'll be compromise, and I think we'll get through it.
I just finally want to spend a little bit of time talking about conglomerates, because we cover a lot of corporates, and there have been so many cross-border transactions, mega transactions. We mentioned your deal making. It feels as though some companies are going after scale. Bigger is better in this disruptive environment. What would you say to some of the startups here that are encountering these giants of industry that keep on growing by the day? What should their strategy be?
Build partnerships. Look, I think that one of the fundamental challenges that many of you will face as you build your business, the technology part, or whatever that's at the core of your offering, is the thing that you're passionate about. And my guess is that depending on who your customer is, you'll ultimately have to think through, how do you scale your market access strategies? How do you scale your go-to-market models? And I think to the extent you can think about leveraging large established companies who have already invested in that. We do this all the time with startups that we build partnerships with because we have such a broad ecosystem on a global basis. So, that would be the advice that I would give them.
Also, when it comes to the money, I mean, there's a lot of free cash out there. We've still got very low interest rates globally. And effectively, you've got a lot of venture capitalists wanting to pour money into companies, but that comes at a cost. What's the strategy for a startup about taking money, taking debt, whether they give up some equity, whether they partner with a big company like yours or a small company? Is there a sort of hard and fast rule in this type of environment?
I don't think there's a hard and fast rule. I think probably everybody in this room has a different set of issues that you're trying to deal with. And so, my view is when you have strategic investors who might invest in your companies, I would look for those who not only have the cash, but also can bring some sort of expertise that you think you need. And that's how when we look for mentors in our careers, we look for people who augment what we do well and can help develop us. And I think in this case, to the extent you need cash, then take cash from anybody. To the extent you see an opportunity to learn from or leverage some sort of experience from a strategic investor, then you can be more selective about who you actually work with. And it's pretty much common sense, but that's the way I'd think about it.
That advice is worth a lot of money to people in the room. Thank you so much for giving up your time. Chuck Robbins, the CEO of CISCO.
Thank you, Chuck.